Imagine Stonehenge, a massive megalithic complex still shrouded in mystery and legend. It is not merely a collection of enormous stones, it is a complex structure whose purpose and method of construction remain subjects of debate among scientists and archaeologists. This monument is likely over 5,000 years old, and its heavy blocks weighing up to 50 tons were transported from distances of up to 240 kilometers. The main stones, known as sarsens, were quarried near the town of Maryborough, while the smaller blue stones that also form part of the complex are believed to have been brought from Wales. How did ancient people manage to move such colossal boulders? Research indicates that they used a system of wooden rollers and ropes as well as possibly waterways to facilitate transportation. But why did they do this? One of the most widespread theories suggests that Stonehenge may have served as an ancient observatory, allowing the tracking of solar and lunar cycles. The arrangement of the stones perfectly aligns with the sunrise and sunset on the summer and winter solstices. During these times of year, sunlight penetrates between the stones, creating impressive light effects that could have been perceived as sacred omens. Other researchers believe that Stonehenge could have been a ritual center, a place where ancient people conducted ceremonies related to life and death. There are also suggestions that it was used as a healing site where people came to seek help from nature spirits. Many find that the wind passing between the stones creates a unique atmosphere, both trembling and mystical, and the coolness from the ancient stones can be felt even on the hottest days. This place, filled with stories and enigmas, continues to captivate both scholars and ordinary tourists. Stonehenge, with its majestic forms and astronomical alignment, remains one of the most studied monuments in the world, attracting archaeologists and historians from various countries. Each stone here seems to hold a secret that humanity has been trying to decipher for centuries. There are many theories, but the true purpose of Stonehenge remains unknown. In this place imbued with the spirit of antiquity, one feels the power and grandeur that embody the very concepts of time and space, leaving an imprint on the consciousness of anyone who has ever stood here. Stonehenge is not just a monument, it is an eternal symbol of humanity's quest for knowledge and understanding of the world. In the scorching Peruvian desert, where sand whispers ancient secrets beneath one's feet, lie the mysterious geoglyphs of Nazca, enormous drawings that impress with their scale and precision. These gigantic images, some reaching up to 370 meters in length, depict animals, plants, and geometric shapes visible only from high above. The first mentions of them date back to the early 20th century, when in 1931 pilot Chuck Norris spotted them during a flight over the desert. Since then, the lines have captivated researchers and tourists, raising numerous questions about their purpose and creation methods. Preserved over centuries, the geoglyphs resist the destructive forces of time due to the unique climatic conditions, rare rains and winds that do not affect their surface. Among the many theories about their purpose, the most popular suggest that they served as a calendar, indicating seasonal changes or a map of water sources vital for survival in this barren landscape. Other researchers propose that these lines were ritual paths leading to sacred places or even messages to gods, intended to ensure fertility and protection. The stark contrast between the lifeless landscape and the delicate images evokes a sense that here, in the silence of the desert, a dialogue between humanity and nature has been ongoing for millennia. The giant drawings created by the Nazca people between 200 BC and the 6th century AD remain one of the greatest mysteries of archaeology. Scholars like Dr. Paul Kosok, who studied these lines in the 1930s, have attempted to unravel their secrets, but a definitive answer has yet to be found. The Nazca lines, sprawling over an area of more than 500 square kilometers, continue to inspire awe and curiosity, prompting us to ponder the significance these geoglyphs held for their creators. With each new discovery and theory, the enigma of the Nazca Lines deepens, leaving us to contemplate the past of humanity and its capacity for creativity. It's hard to imagine, but the Egyptian pyramids remain one of the most mysterious architectural achievements of humanity, inspiring awe and bewilderment. For instance, the Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 2,500 years before our era, consists of more than 2 million stone blocks, each weighing up to 80 tons. These blocks are perfectly fitted together with gaps of less than 1 millimeter, making the joints almost invisible to the human eye. Additionally, the pyramid's orientation towards the cardinal directions is astonishing. Its sides are aligned with such precision that the deviation is only a few minutes. There are numerous theories about how the ancient Egyptians moved these massive blocks. One of the most popular hypotheses suggests the use of ramps built around the pyramid. Archaeological research conducted at the end of the 20th century confirms that such ramps could indeed have allowed workers to lift stones to the necessary height for construction. Another version proposes a system of levers which could have facilitated the movement of blocks over short distances. In some cases, it was suggested that waterways were used for transporting stones, which could significantly ease the transportation process. Imagine the atmosphere of that time. The scorching sun of the desert burned the skin of the workers, while the sound of stones being dragged created a tense rhythm that blended with the cries and whispers of the laborers. The smell of fresh limestone mixed with the scent of sweat as thousands of people worked on creating these monumental structures. At sunset, the long shadows cast by the pyramids gave the impression that the giant stone constructions were living beings observing the efforts of people trying to create something eternal. Modern research indicates that constructing just the Great Pyramid could have taken up to 20 years, requiring the organization of work for thousands of workers, providing them with food, housing, and necessary tools. 80 tons is not just a number, it's the weight that needed to be skillfully managed to avoid damaging either the stones or the lives of those who worked. Calculations show that for lifting such blocks to great heights, not only physical strength but also intelligent organization of labor was required, which confirms the high level of social structure in ancient Egypt, capable of undertaking such grand projects. In the face of these achievements, it becomes clear that the construction of pyramids is not just an architectural marvel, but also a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The technologies used by the ancient Egyptians remain a subject of study and admiration, as many aspects of their methods still defy full explanation. There are even theories that the Egyptians could have used stars to determine the exact direction and angle, adding another layer of complexity to this mysterious process. Ultimately, the pyramids serve not only as tombs for pharaohs, but also as a perpetual reminder of what the human mind and labor can achieve when creating something truly magnificent. In the tropical forests of Central America, surrounded by dense thickets and mysterious silence, lie the abandoned cities of the Maya civilization, left by their inhabitants between the 8th and 9th centuries AD. These magnificent cities, once teeming with life, are now hidden under a canopy of leaves, where the rustling of the wind blends with the distant sounds of wild animals that have filled the ancient palaces. One of the most prevalent theories explaining the disappearance of the Maya is linked to climate changes, particularly prolonged droughts that could have lasted for several decades. According to researchers such as Dr. William Saturn from the University of Florida, in some regions, rainfall levels dropped by 30% during this period, leading to severe agricultural problems, which were the basis of the Maya economy. The depletion of natural resources may also have played a significant role. Intensive farming, deforestation, and excessive use of soil led to the degradation of ecosystems. As a result, cities that were once prosperous began to decline. Epidemics, possibly caused by overcrowding and lack of medical care, could have decimated the population, weakening it and leading to social instability. Internal conflicts and wars between city-states such as Tikal and Calakmul could have exacerbated the situation, leading to further destruction and the flight of people. Consequently, during this dark period of history, plazas and temples, once filled with the sounds of festivals and rituals, are now shrouded in silence, where only the rustling of leaves and the cries of wild animals remind us of their former glory. Modern archaeologists such as Dr. David Stewart are actively studying these abandoned settlements, trying to unravel the mysteries surrounding their disappearance. By analyzing materials found in soil layers and deciphering hieroglyphs on monuments. For example, in Chichen Itza, one of the most famous Maya cities, evidence of a mass exodus of the population has been found. This place, where human sacrifices and gatherings once took place, is now filled with a sense of desolation, and its architecture is slowly crumbling under the onslaught of time and nature. The height of pyramids such as the Pyramid of Kukulkan reaches 30 meters, and their majestic silhouettes now stand as silent witnesses to the lost civilization. Research shows that during the Maya's heyday, the population could have reached 10 million people, but by the end of the 9th century, this number had significantly decreased, leaving behind only ruins and mysteries. In this context, even the simplest elements, such as deeply rooted trees that grow through stone structures, become symbols of how nature gradually reclaims territory once dominated by human ingenuity. The legend of the sunken Atlantis, described by Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, has continued to captivate the minds of scholars and adventurers for more than 2,000 years. Plato claimed that Atlantis was a powerful island state located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, modern-day Gibraltar, and that it disappeared beneath the waves as a result of a catastrophe. In these works, he described Atlantis as a thriving civilization, rich in natural resources, possessing a formidable navy and advanced technologies. Since then, numerous hypotheses have emerged regarding the location of this mythical island. One of the most popular theories places Atlantis in the Mediterranean Sea, with some researchers linking it to the island of Santorini, which was devastated by a catastrophic volcanic eruption around 3,600 years ago. Others point to the Atlantic Ocean, suggesting that Atlantis could have been located in the vicinity of the Azores, where underwater structures might indicate submerged lands. Scientific research reveals that the ocean floor in these areas holds many mysteries, and some even propose that remnants of Atlantis could be found in the North Sea, where the whispers of ancient secrets are known only to the most intrepid sailors. In the Caribbean basin, traces of ancient civilizations are found, and some researchers assert that Atlantis could have been located in this region, where exotic islands surrounded by transparent waters evoke dreams of lost worlds. However, the boldest theories place Atlantis in Antarctica, where beneath many kilometers of ice, remnants of unknown civilizations may lie, about which we can only speculate. The water here is filled with a salty aroma, and the sound of waves crashing against the rocks creates a sense of vastness, as if the ocean itself holds secrets that could change our understanding of history. Scientific expeditions and search groups continue to explore these places, hoping to uncover not only physical evidence of Atlantis' existence, but also to unravel the mysteries that connect us to our ancestors. Research shows that over the past few decades, more than 30 different locations have been proposed for Atlantis, and each time a new theory emerges, the air is filled with the spirit of adventure and mystery. The Great Sphinx of Giza, this monumental stone guardian, stands majestically on a plateau, gazing at the horizons for over 4,000 years. Its length reaches 73 meters and its height is 20 meters, making it one of the largest and most famous statues in the world. The Sphinx is carved from a single block of limestone, which, despite the passage of time, retains its power and grandeur, although the surface of its body has cracked under the influence of time and natural conditions. The presumed time of creation of the Sphinx dates back to the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, around 2,500 years before our era. This statue, according to one theory, served as a guardian of the necropolis, protecting the rest of the deceased and symbolizing eternity. On the other hand, its image is also associated with the solar deity, which is emphasized by its orientation towards the rising sun. Some researchers suggest that the Sphinx could have been an astronomical marker, indicating significant events related to celestial bodies. The story of the dream of Thutmose also attracts attention, in which Pharaoh Thutmose IV, resting in the shade of the Sphinx, saw a dream in which a deity predicted his victory over enemies, leading to his ascension to the throne. Under the pores of the Sphinx there may still be hidden chambers and tunnels that have not yet been explored, adding another layer of mystery to this ancient structure. Light and shadow play on its face throughout the day, creating the impression that the Sphinx is alive, experiencing all the changes in the surrounding world. These fleeting moments when the sun's light touches its features make one ponder how many stories and secrets this monument, which has witnessed countless epochs, holds. It is known that the Sphinx was covered in sand for many centuries, and it was only in the 18th century that excavations began, revealing its grandeur to the world. Some researchers even claim that there may be ancient technologies or records beneath the Sphinx that could change our understanding of history. These facts, along with the sense of antiquity emanating from the cracked stone, immerse one in an atmosphere of mystery and grandeur that is difficult to convey in words. Few people realize that the ancient Romans created technologies that were far ahead of their time in terms of complexity and durability. Their concrete, made of lime, volcanic ash, and water, possessed unique properties. It not only hardened underwater, but also became stronger over time. This technology allowed the Romans to build monumental structures like the Pantheon, which still amazes with its dome construction, 43 meters in diameter. Completed in 125 AD, the Pantheon became a symbol of Roman engineering due to its strength and remarkable architecture that has endured through the centuries. One of the key aspects of Roman construction technologies was the creation of aqueducts that supplied cities with water from distant sources. The most famous of these is the Aqua Appia, built in 312 BC, which stretched over 10 kilometers and served as the primary water source for Rome for many centuries. Walking along its stone arches, through which crystal clear water flowed, gave the feeling of stepping through the pages of history, hearing the sound of water touching the stones. Roman baths, such as the baths of Caracalla, were true masterpieces of engineering art, where cold and hot water were mixed to create a comfortable microclimate even on hot days. The size of these baths is staggering. The complex covered an area of about 32 acres and could accommodate up to 3,000 visitors at once. Inside the baths, in rooms with mosaics and columns bathed in soft light, there was always a refreshing breeze that contrasted with the heat outside. Smooth stone surfaces polished over centuries felt pleasant to the touch, and their coolness reminded of the skill of Roman stonemasons who used special tools to achieve perfect results. Roads built by the Romans, many of which have survived to this day, were a true marvel of their time. They ensured fast connections between cities and provinces, and their durability allowed them to last for centuries. One of the most famous examples is the Via Appia, known as the Queen of Roads, which connected Rome with southern Italy and was completed in 332 BC. The road was paved with large stones that not only withstood heavy loads but also provided a high level of comfort for travelers. The Romans did not just build, they created eternity in stone, using their knowledge and skills to create objects that became the foundation for future civilizations. Imagine a moment when one of the greatest mysteries of human history was unraveled thanks to a piece of black basalt known as the Rosetta Stone. This artifact, discovered in 1812 by French soldiers in the Egyptian city of Rosetta, is a stele approximately 11 inches tall with 3 identical texts written in different languages: ancient Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The black basalt on which the signs are carved has a rough texture, creating a contrast with the smooth lines of the hieroglyphs etched onto its surface, as if these signs were left here by the gods themselves to convey important messages for future generations. Thanks to the Rosetta Stone in 1842, French scholar Jean-François Champollion was able to decipher the hieroglyphs, opening the gates to understanding ancient Egyptian culture, religion, and history. Champollion, using his knowledge of Semitic languages and comparing texts in different languages, discovered that hieroglyphs do not merely symbolize sounds but represent a complex system of signs that could convey both sound and meaning. As a result of his work, it became possible to read ancient texts that had been forgotten for nearly 2,000 years. This decipherment provided access to historical documents such as the Book of the Dead, which describes rituals related to the afterlife, and other important literary and religious works. The restoration and understanding of these texts allowed historians to gain a deeper insight into the thinking and customs of ancient Egyptians, their views on life and death, and the social structure of their society. Champollion's discovery was a true revolution in the field of Egyptology, and his contribution enabled the creation of an entire science dedicated to studying ancient Egypt. Knowledge that had been lost over centuries became accessible again, as if history itself reached out to the present, awakening interest in ancient civilizations. The Rosetta Stone and its decipherment became a symbol of the triumph of science over ignorance, opening doors to understanding a complex world that once flourished on the banks of the Nile. It is worth noting that the text on the Rosetta Stone was written in honor of Ptolemy V's Epiphanes, which also underscores the significance of this artifact for understanding the political system of ancient Egypt and its relations with Greece. Remarkably, ancient civilizations possessed remarkable skill in designing their temples and structures with consideration for astronomical events, creating a spectacular show for observers and contemporaries. The Temple of Abu Simbel in Egypt, built in the 13th century BC by order of Pharaoh Ramses II, is illuminated twice a year, on the day of his birth and on the day of his coronation. Light penetrates the main hall of the temple, illuminating the statues of gods seated deep within, and creating an atmosphere of divine presence, evoking awe and admiration in viewers. In this moment, silence envelops the space, broken only by the sounds of awestruck whispers as people gather to witness this ancient wonder. In Mexico, the Pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, built between the 9th and 12th centuries AD, also demonstrates an exceptional understanding of astronomy. During the vernal and autumnal equinoxes, sunlight creates the illusion of a snake descending as the shadows from the pyramid steps move downwards, as if the serpent god Kukulkan himself is descending from the heavens. This spectacle draws thousands of tourists who stand in awe as light and shadow create something truly magical. Stonehenge, built around 3,000 years BC in England, also impresses with its astronomical precision. Each year on the summer solstice, the first rays of the rising sun pass through the central alley of the monument, creating a dramatic play of light and shadow that evokes a sense of reverence for the ancient knowledge encoded in these stones. This place, shrouded in mystery and legend, attracts both locals and tourists who gather to be part of this unique experience, creating a sense of unity between the past and the present. These examples demonstrate how ancient civilizations used their knowledge of astronomy to create not only architectural masterpieces but also places where people could connect with the cosmos and their gods. The Temple of Abu Simbel, the Pyramid of Kukulkan, and Stonehenge serve as reminders that humanity has always sought to understand its place in the vast cosmos, creating extraordinary structures that continue to awe us today. In Mexico lies the enigmatic city of Teotihuacan, built in the 3rd century AD and becoming one of the most significant centers of ancient Mesoamerica. Its builders remain unknown, lending this place an aura of mystery. The most impressive structures are the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, which tower against the bright Mexican sky. The Pyramid of the Sun, with a height of around 62 meters, is one of the largest in the world and occupies a central position in this ancient urban plan. The Pyramid of the Moon, slightly smaller but no less significant, serves as the culmination of the Avenue of the Dead, the main axis of the city, stretching about 1.5 kilometers, where rituals and festivals once took place. This stone-paved avenue, surrounded by other buildings, gives it a majestic appearance. Walking along it, one can feel the echo of footsteps in the silence, and the wind, gently rustling the grass, creates an atmosphere of ancient spirits' presence. The city's geometric layout was meticulously planned. Streets and squares are aligned along the north-south and east-west axes, indicating a high level of knowledge in astronomy and architecture among its creators. The ancient walls, still standing today, hold secrets that modern scholars have not yet deciphered. Some researchers suggest that the city was abandoned in the 8th century, possibly due to climate change, internal conflicts, or economic difficulties, but no conclusive evidence supports this. The sense of space on the Avenue of the Dead is captivating, and the play of light on the steps of the monumental structures creates an illusion of moving through time, as if you are part of this grand history. Each stone and crack in the walls remind us of the life that once thrived here, and the mysteries of Teotihuacan continue to raise many questions. The city's area of about 20 square kilometers makes it one of the largest in the ancient world, and its legacy continues to attract archaeologists and tourists. 80% of the buildings remain unexplored, indicating that there is still much to discover. Imagine for a moment the crystal skulls, which are believed to have been found in various places in Central America. These artifacts, made from a single piece of quartz, are remarkable for their flawless polish and anatomical precision. Each skull, seemingly carved from ice, can refract light in such a way as to create unusual optical effects, playing on the surface of the crystals as if the very soul is trapped within. Some of these skulls reach a height of up to 30 centimeters and weigh around 35 kilograms, making them not only extraordinary, but also extremely heavy to carry. Their cold surface seems to induce a shiver, while the empty eye sockets gaze at observers, creating an atmosphere of mystery and enigma. Research has shown that some of them could have been created during the pre-Hispanic period, while others date back to the 19th century, when the fashion for exotic and mystical objects began. This era produced many forgeries which, despite their craftsmanship, cannot compare to the originals. There are two main theories about their origin. One claims that the skulls are ancient artifacts with mystical properties, said to be able to heal or even predict the future, while the other suggests that they are skillfully crafted forgeries from the Victorian era, created to attract the attention of researchers and collectors. Famous archaeologists such as Frederick D. Graw have studied these mysterious objects and concluded that some of the skulls show signs of processing that do not correspond to the technology of ancient civilizations. Nevertheless, the scientific community continues to debate what these skulls really are. Recently, in 2001, one of the skulls was subjected to analysis using modern technologies at an exhibition in Mexico, which showed that its age could be several thousand years. However, these results did not resolve the debate, as many scientists argue that such analyses are unlikely to provide accurate information about their origin. Legends about the crystal skulls, their ability to absorb and emit energy, continue to stir the minds of adventurers and mystics. These artifacts have become the subjects of numerous studies and expeditions, attracting tourists eager to touch something otherworldly. The crystal skull exhibited in the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City has become a symbol of this mystique, and its history is a topic of discussion on forums and in books. Today, it is known that there are no fewer than 3 famous skulls in private collections that continue to attract the interest of researchers and adventurers. Determining their true origin is a task that poses a challenge to an entire generation of archaeologists and historians. The Library of Alexandria, founded in the 3rd century BC, was considered the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient world. At its peak, it contained up to 700,000 scrolls, collected through unique information-gathering methods. Each time a ship arrived in Alexandria's port, its cargo was inspected, and copies were made of every text on board. This ensured that the library held works from all known ancient literature, scientific treatises, and philosophical reflections. The atmosphere in the library was unique. The rustling of papyrus scrolls, the scent of parchment, and the soft light of oil lamps created a special ambiance, immersing visitors in a world of knowledge where each line could reveal a new truth. The library served not only as a repository but also as a center of scientific thought, where minds like Euclid and Archimedes worked. However, like many great achievements, the Library of Alexandria did not escape a tragic fate. There are several versions of its destruction. The first version involves a fire that broke out during Julius Caesar's siege of Alexandria in 41 BC. Historical accounts suggest that part of the library was destroyed, but not all. Another version claims that the library was dismantled by order of Caliph Omar in the 7th century when Muslims captured the city, and he declared that the texts contradicted the Quran or could be used to tempt the faithful. There are also more gradual versions of the library's decline, where texts were simply lost and interest in them waned over time. The library, once shining like a beacon of knowledge, became a victim of historical upheavals and human carelessness, leading to the loss of invaluable works. Unfortunately, this loss not only affected literature but also significantly impacted the development of science and education in subsequent centuries. Today, we can only speculate about the ideas and discoveries that could have been preserved if the library had survived. It is believed that the library may have held knowledge that could have been ahead of its time, including concepts we are only beginning to discuss today. The enigmatic Sphinx standing on the plateau of Giza attracts attention not only with its majestic appearance, but also with the multitude of theories surrounding its age. Some researchers, such as geologist Robert Schoch, claim that the erosion marks visible on the Sphinx's body indicate the influence of water, which in turn could suggest a much older time of its creation. Schoch, working with stone samples, concluded that these marks could have formed only as a result of prolonged periods of rain, characteristic of the region more than 10,000 years ago. This significant observation challenges the commonly accepted date of the Sphinx's construction, usually estimated to be around 2,500 years before our era. If we consider that climate changes could have led to earlier rains, the Sphinx might be much older than we are accustomed to thinking. The astronomical orientation of the Sphinx also raises interest. It faces the constellation of Leo, which, according to astronomical calculations, indicates a period around 10,500 years before our era. This time coincides with the beginning of an epoch when the star map looked completely different from today. The sunrise over the Sphinx during the days of the vernal equinox could have had significant importance for the ancient Egyptians, giving this monument not only architectural but also astronomical significance. the silent grandeur of the Sphinx, its weathered face constantly playing with light and shadow, creates an atmosphere of antiquity and mystery resistant to time. Each crack in the stone and each erosion mark tells a story, witnessing the long centuries that have passed since its creation. Such a level of detail and depth in the study of the Sphinx can change our understanding of ancient Egyptian history and culture. The study of such aspects as the influence of climate changes on architectural monuments opens new horizons for historians and archaeologists, forcing them to rethink not only the age of the Sphinx, but the entire history of civilizations. For example, in recent years, archaeologists have discovered traces of ancient streams and ponds in close proximity to Giza, which may indicate the existence of a completely different ecosystem than the one we observe today. These findings support the hypothesis that ancient Egyptians could have built their structures under conditions where the climate was significantly more humid than it is now. It is important to note that such discoveries require a revision of the entire chronology related to the emergence of the Egyptian civilization and open new possibilities for the study of its origins. With each new research, the Sphinx continues to amaze and intrigue, leaving many questions unanswered. For example, it remains unclear who exactly created it and what its original function was in the ancient society. There are many theories, ranging from the idea that the Sphinx was a guardian of the pyramids to the suggestion that it could have had a ritual significance for the ancient Egyptians. These questions remain open, and each new look at the Sphinx can lead to new discoveries and understanding of ancient history. Moreover, from an archaeological perspective, the Sphinx has become a symbol of broader research aimed at uncovering the secrets not only of Egypt, but of the entire ancient history. In ancient texts from various cultures, one can find remarkably similar descriptions of flying chariots that are associated with deities. For instance, in the Vedas, there are mentions of vahanas, divine vehicles that could move through the air. The Rig Veda contains verses describing chariots that shine like the sun and produce powerful sounds similar to thunderclaps. These images evoke associations with highly advanced technologies. The Bible also mentions chariots, such as when the prophet Elijah is taken up to heaven in a fiery chariot surrounded by whirlwinds and lightning. In Sumerian texts, there are descriptions of flying objects that could be interpreted as more than just metaphors. These texts describe how gods descend to earth in sacred chariots, creating a storm and light around them, which gives these events an aura of grandeur and mystery. Erich von Däniken, a renowned researcher of ancient texts, proposed that these descriptions could be evidence of contact with extraterrestrial beings. He argued that ancient people, describing their encounters with heavenly beings, might have interpreted technologies that were unfamiliar to them. The opposing view suggests that these descriptions are metaphorical constructs reflecting natural phenomena or mythological concepts of divine power. Specifically, such interpretations emphasize that the brightness, thunder, and wind accompanying the appearance of these chariots could be linked to natural disasters or anomalies that ancient people could not explain. These texts not only illustrate human perceptions of the divine, but also spark discussions about how our ancestors interpreted the world around them. Comparing various mythologies reveals the universality of these images, which makes one ponder what unites cultures from different parts of the world. For example, in Mesopotamia, gods like Enki and Marduk are described as descending from the heavens in fiery chariots, creating associations with movement between worlds. These descriptions, filled with detailed sensory imagery, highlight how humanity sought to explain its experiences and interactions with something greater than itself. Interestingly, ancient Egyptian texts also contain mentions of chariots of light, which could be interpreted as symbols of divine power and control over nature. These cultural artifacts create extensive parallels in the understanding of the divine, especially when it comes to journeys between worlds or dimensions. Comparing these myths can lead to new insights into how ancient people perceived celestial phenomena and perhaps inspired them to create their own myths about the divine. It is important to note that these texts highlight not only technological aspects but also philosophical ones in the perception of the divine. For example, in Vedic literature, chariots are used to represent the spiritual path on which a person seeks higher knowledge. This likely explains why such images have remained popular throughout the centuries and continue to attract the interest of researchers and history enthusiasts. Mentions of chariots in the myths of different cultures indicate that despite geographical and temporal differences, humanity has always sought answers to its questions about nature and the divine. These texts preserve not only historical value, but also cultural codes that allow each new generation to reflect on its roots and origins. Vedic texts, for instance, contain clear indications of how gods used their chariots to transmit knowledge and wisdom, leaving traces in human history. Amazingly, in the 16th century, the Ottoman admiral Piri Reis created a map that depicted the shores of Antarctica, entirely hidden under ice. This map, dated 1513, is considered one of the earliest images of a continent that was then unknown to Europeans. Piri Reis, as it is claimed, used ancient sources including works by Greek and Roman geographers, as well as maps that may have been lost over the centuries. His map clearly shows a coastline that is only accessible today thanks to modern satellite technologies. This raises many questions. Where did Piri Reis get this knowledge? Modern research by scientists such as Dr. Charles Hapgood has revealed that Piri Reis's map contains remarkable geographical accuracy that matches data about the continent obtained only in the 20th century. The map not only shows the coastlines but also detailed images of mountain systems that are known to be hidden under the ice cover. Scientists suggest that Piri Reis and his predecessors could have relied on earlier maps created by civilizations that possessed knowledge of geography that has since been lost. It is interesting to note that other ancient maps, such as the map of Fra Mauro created in the 1440s, also demonstrate unusual knowledge of the southern hemisphere for their time. This map shows not only Africa and Asia, but also the outlines of Antarctica, raising questions about how ancient sailors could navigate these waters without modern navigational equipment. Based on these observations, some researchers even suggest the existence of unknown maritime routes or ancient civilizations that may have been more advanced than previously thought. Scientific research conducted in recent decades has confirmed that many of these maps indeed show accurate outlines that can be compared with modern data on continents. Periodic discoveries of underwater reliefs such as rock formations and underwater mountains also confirm that there could have been lands on the coast of Antarctica in the past that were later buried under ice sheets. These maps not only spark interest in ancient navigators, but also open doors to new research on how ancient civilizations could create such accurate images. Each new discovery adds to the mystery of this remarkable phenomenon, as it remains unclear exactly how ancient cartographers could know about such distant and hidden territories. Today, research continues to study these maps, and each new finding can shed light on how humanity perceived the world in the distant past. Imagine an ancient world where wise men and priests had devices on their tables that produced electric current. One such artifact is the Baghdad battery, dated back to around 200 years before our era. It is a clay pot about 30 centimeters tall, containing a copper cylinder in the center with an iron rod in the middle. The appearance of this artifact speaks of the time it was created. Tarnished metal and compacted clay give it an air of antiquity and mystery. Research conducted in the 20th century showed that if the pot is filled with an electrolyte, such as vinegar or lemon juice, it can generate a voltage of about 2 volts. experiments by scientists confirmed that such a battery could produce enough energy for electroplating metals, suggesting that in the ancient world it was used to gild or silver items. However, there is another theory that the Baghdad battery was used for medical purposes, such as treating headaches or other ailments. Picture an ancient person holding this artifact, feeling a slight tingling when it comes into contact with the working device, creating a sense of magic and power. There are also hypotheses that the device was used in religious rituals to create miracles, adding to the object's mystical allure. It is important to note that there is still no consensus on the purpose of the Baghdad battery, and each new discovery related to it adds new details to our understanding of how ancient civilizations could utilize electricity. Around the year 1930, this artifact was found in the area of modern-day Iraq, and since then, it has been the subject of numerous debates and theories. Ultimately, this enigmatic battery remains one of the most intriguing artifacts that challenge our perceptions of the technologies of ancient societies. In the caves of Liguria, on the northern coast of Italy, ancient rock paintings have been discovered that spark both genuine interest and debate. These images, estimated to be around 8,000 years old, depict peculiar figures that resemble modern-day submarines. The walls of the caves bear outlines of objects with rounded shapes and long fins, which can be interpreted as stylized boats or even underwater creatures. The soft light filtering into the dark corners of these caves creates an atmosphere of mystery, where each stroke on the stone surface seems to whisper about ancient secrets. Renowned archaeologists like Dr. Marco Rizzoli have proposed various theories about the meaning of these paintings, ranging from the idea of unknown technologies used by ancient people to the notion that they are simply stylized depictions of familiar objects, such as fishing boats or local animals like dolphins. Some researchers even suggest that the paintings could have been part of a ritual connected to the sea, indicating the importance of the aquatic element for these ancient peoples. The atmosphere in the caves is filled with a cool breeze, and the sound of dripping water creates a melody that adds to the sense of time and space, where people thousands of years ago attempted to capture their understanding of the world. These artifacts are not just artistic creations, but also cultural heritage that provides a window into the minds of ancient people. Each discovered painting has been meticulously studied, and the analysis has led to conclusions about the social and ecological aspects of life during those times. To date, more than 100 such images have been found in Liguria, continuing to fuel discussions among scientists and history enthusiasts. Some of the paintings were found at heights of more than 10 meters above the cave floor, suggesting that ancient artists may have used ladders or other devices to reach these hard-to-access places. These discoveries underscore the diversity and complexity of human life in that era and how they perceived their surroundings. Ancient civilizations possessed remarkable astronomical knowledge that often seems incredible to modern people. For instance, the Maya created a calendar that allowed them to calculate the length of the solar year with an accuracy of up to 20 seconds. They observed celestial bodies and recorded their movements using complex mathematical calculations. As a result, their long count calendar, which began in 2888 BC, became the foundation of their cultural and religious life. The Babylonians, who lived on the territory of modern Iraq, developed their own astronomical tables and predicted lunar eclipses with high accuracy. They recorded eclipses and wrote them in cuneiform, creating one of the first systems for predicting celestial phenomena. The builders of Newgrange in Ireland likely created this monument to mark the winter solstice. Inside this ancient structure, on the day of the winter solstice, sunlight enters the chamber, illuminating it only at this particular moment, demonstrating the deep connection of ancient people with celestial cycles. No less impressive is the Antikythera mechanism, discovered in 1901 in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera. This device, dating back to the 1st century BC, is an ancient calculator designed for calculating the movements of celestial bodies, including solar and lunar cycles. The mechanism consists of more than 30 gears and shows how ancient Greeks used complex mechanical technologies for astronomical observations. The night sky, filled with stars, had a profound effect on ancient observers. They looked at the stars, sought answers to their questions, and tried to understand the nature of the world. Observatories like those built in ancient Mesopotamia were places of silence and concentration, where priests recorded the movements of planets and stars, creating the first astronomical maps. These maps laid the foundation for further astronomical knowledge and influenced cultures that came later. All this underscores how important the study of astronomy was to ancient civilizations. They did not just observe the sky, but actively used their knowledge in daily life, regulating agricultural work, religious holidays, and even political events based on celestial phenomena. For example, the Egyptians used astronomical observations to create their calendar, which consisted of 13 months of 30 days and one additional day. This calendar is over 3,000 years old and served as the basis for the modern Gregorian calendar. Thus, knowledge of celestial bodies became an integral part of the lives of ancient cultures, shaping their worldview and understanding of the world. They developed complex observation systems that continue to amaze scientists. Babylonian astronomers recorded data on eclipses with an accuracy of up to 1 minute, which is an outstanding achievement for their time. Such examples show that ancient people were not just observers but true scientists who studied and understood the laws of nature. At the entrance to the harbor of Rhodes stood a statue known as the Colossus of Rhodes, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. This magnificent bronze figure reached a height of approximately 33 meters, comparable to the height of a modern 10-story building. The statue was made of bronze and installed on a massive stone base, adding to its imposing presence. It was built in 280 BC according to the design of sculptor Chares, who used bronze plates fastened with metal clamps. The Colossus depicted the sun god Helios, symbolizing protection and prosperity for sailors and traders entering the harbor. As ships approached Rhodes, the bronze's gleam on the sun blinded, creating an awe-inspiring sight that left an unforgettable impression on sailors approaching the shore. The sound of waves crashing against the giant figure's base enhanced the statue's atmosphere of grandeur and power. The Colossus stood for only a few decades before it was destroyed by a devastating earthquake around 226 or 227 BC. Various theories exist about its true purpose. Could it have served as a lighthouse guiding sailors into the harbor, or was it simply a statue standing tall over the water as a symbol of Rhodes? Some researchers suggest that the Colossus's height and location could indeed have served a navigational function, as it was visible from many miles away. Today, only ruins remain of the Colossus, but the remnants of its base can still be seen on Rhodes, serving as a reminder of the once mighty monument that impressed and amazed generations. The legend tells that in ancient Babylon there existed the Hanging Gardens of Semiramis, which were considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. These gardens, according to the legends, consisted of terraces supported by powerful columns that reached up to 20 meters in height. The architects likely used limestone and red brick in their construction, creating multi-level structures where each terrace was filled with exotic plants and trees. To maintain the life of the green vegetation, a complex irrigation system was developed that lifted water from the Euphrates, ensuring a constant flow of moisture. This system may have included screw pumps and channels that delivered water to the upper levels of the gardens. Despite their fame, archaeologists have not yet found definitive remains of the Hanging Gardens, which has sparked heated debates about their actual existence. Some researchers believe that the gardens could have been located not in Babylon, but in Nineveh. where images were found that resembled descriptions of the gardens. If the hanging gardens had indeed existed, the aroma of exotic plants, the sound of water in the channels, and the cool shade would have provided a stark contrast to the scorching sun of Mesopotamia. While the desert stretched out around them, these gardens would have appeared as a true oasis, attracting travelers and local residents. Such gardens could have symbolized the power and wealth of the Babylonian kingdom and also represented the love of King Nebuchadnezzar for his wife, for whom, according to legend, these magnificent green terraces were created. Historical records mention various plants that could have grown in these gardens: palms, pomegranates, roses, and even orchids. Ancient writers, such as Strabo and Pliny the Elder, left descriptions in which they noted that the gardens were not only beautiful, but also technologically advanced for their time. However, the lack of archaeological findings forces researchers to re-evaluate their views on this wonder. Some suggest that the gardens may have been nothing more than a myth created to emphasize the grandeur of Babylon and its kings. Regardless, the image of the hanging gardens continues to inspire artists, writers, and historians, remaining a mystery that continues to intrigue scholars. On Easter Island, lost in the Pacific Ocean, stand hundreds of moai, monumental statues that reach heights of 10 meters and weigh up to 80 tons. These stone giants, carved from volcanic tuff, come in various forms, each reflecting unique cultural traits of the Rapa Nui people. The faces of the statues express sternness and majesty, with large ears and accentuated features that evoke a sense of connection to ancient ancestors. The moai are situated along the coast, on the Rano Raraku Plateau, where the main quarries were located, and on various platforms around the island, such as Ahu Tongariki and Ahu Akivi. This arrangement is not coincidental. The statues face the village, symbolizing protection and blessing for the local inhabitants. The transportation of these enormous statues from the quarries to the coast remains one of the most mysterious puzzles in history. Scientific research indicates that the moai could be moved using logs as rollers, as well as a system of ropes and coordinated effort. One popular hypothesis suggests that the statues walked, swaying back and forth, allowing them to move across the ground. This theory has been experimentally tested and confirmed that coordinated efforts of many people could make the impossible possible. Against this backdrop, the sound of ocean waves crashing against the shore behind the stone giants can be heard. The wind carves their stern faces, adding to their grandeur and mystery. The sense of isolation that envelops the entire island is heightened by the fact that Easter Island is more than 3,000 kilometers away from the nearest major populated area. The silence and tranquility that reign on the island only emphasize its unique atmosphere. Scientists studying this corner of the world cannot help but wonder how the Rapa Nui people were able to create such a legacy, leaving behind only questions and mysteries. On Easter Island, approximately 93 moai remain, many of which were toppled, symbolizing the fall of the cultural heritage of the people and their complex interactions with the surrounding environment. The knowledge of the sphericity of the Earth is not a revelation that emerged only during the era of great geographical discoveries. As early as the 6th century BC, philosophers such as Pythagoras, a member of the Pythagorean school, hypothesized that the Earth is spherical based on observations of celestial bodies and their movements. In the 4th century BC, Aristotle presented several compelling arguments in favor of this theory, including observations of the shadow of the Earth on the Moon during lunar eclipses, which always appears circular. These early ideas did not go unnoticed. In the 2nd century BC, Eratosthenes, a Greek mathematician and astronomer, conducted one of the first known experiments to measure the circumference of the Earth. He used the angles of sunlight in two different cities, Syracuse and Alexandria, to calculate the distance between them and, based on these angles, estimated the circumference of the planet at 25,000 miles with a high degree of accuracy. In most ancient civilizations, educated people understood that the Earth is not flat. For example, in ancient Egypt, astronomers predicted solar and lunar eclipses based on their knowledge of celestial bodies and their movements. The Babylonians also tracked stars and recorded their positions, enabling them not only to predict eclipses but also to create calendars. In ancient Greek culture, athletes often used signs such as ships disappearing over the horizon, which also served as evidence of the Earth's curvature. Ships that receded appeared to lose their lower parts first and then disappeared entirely, which would be impossible if the planet were flat. The ability to observe the night sky and record the movement of stars around the North Star became an important element of navigation and astronomy. Astronomers knew that stars appeared to revolve around a fixed point in the sky, which also indicated the spherical shape of the Earth. These observations formed the basis for the development of more complex astronomical theories that later evolved in antiquity and the Middle Ages, paving the way for future discoveries. Over the centuries, knowledge of the Earth's shape became a fundamental element of education and science, laying the groundwork for further study of astronomy and geography. There are even mentions that in ancient Rome, people knew about the sphericity of the Earth, and Roman poets such as Virgil described it as a sphere. Imagine a world where, around 4,000 years before our era, a remarkable civilization suddenly emerges in the heart of Mesopotamia. The Sumerians, as they called themselves, black-headed ones, created city-states such as and Lagash, which became centers of culture, trade, and technology. This culture possessed a complex irrigation system that allowed for the watering of fields and the production of abundant food. The Sumerians developed cuneiform, one of the earliest writing systems in history, which they used to record their achievements and laws on clay tablets. This writing system allowed the preservation of knowledge in mathematics and astronomy, which were surprisingly advanced for their time. They knew of 7 planets, including Venus and Mars, which were not visible to the naked eye. By studying celestial phenomena, the Sumerians created calendars based on lunar cycles, enabling them to accurately predict the time for planting and harvesting. According to their beliefs, civilization was brought by gods known as the Anunnaki, adding a layer of mystery to their culture. The Sumerians believed these beings gave them the knowledge necessary to manage the earth and the heavens. While reeds rustled in the marshes between the Tigris and Euphrates, the sound of the stylus gliding over clay tablets recorded every important thought and event. This was the moment when humanity first realized its ability to record history and develop science. The Sumerian civilization left traces that became the foundation for all subsequent Near Eastern cultures, and its legacy continues to be studied by historians and archaeologists to this day. Compared to other ancient cultures, the Sumerians were the first to systematically record their history and knowledge, which gave a boost to the further development of civilization as a whole. In their cities, they built magnificent temples of fired clay, which served as both religious and administrative centers. These temples were dedicated to gods, and the Sumerians believed that each city was protected by its own deity. The most important of these was the god Enlil, the patron of air and earth, whom they believed controlled everything that happened on their territory. The Sumerians were also masters of shipbuilding and trade, using the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to transport goods such as barley, wood, and stone. Their maritime routes extended to the Persian Gulf, facilitating trade connections with neighboring civilizations such as Egypt and the Indus Valley culture. Sumerian culture, with its complex system of governance and multi-layered social structures, served as the basis for future empires such as Babylon and Assyria. In the middle of the 3rd millennium before our era, the Sumerians had already created the first known legal system in history, which was a significant step in the development of society. The Code of Hammurabi, created later, was based on many principles laid down by the Sumerians. This civilization not only left a significant mark on history, but also raised many questions about its origins and interaction with the divine. The Sumerians left behind numerous artifacts and texts that continue to amaze scholars with their complexity and depth. In the ancient Indian epic Mahabharata, technologies are described that evoke a sense of awe and wonder due to their futuristic nature. One such example is the mention of shining weapons, which, according to the text, emit light brighter than 1,000 suns. This is not just a metaphor. Such phrases underscore the power and destructive potential of these technologies. After their use, food became poisoned, and survivors lost their hair and nails, paralleling the effects of a nuclear explosion. These descriptions become particularly ominous when one delves into the details. They make one ponder how ancient civilizations could have possessed knowledge of such destructive forces, which even today inspire both fear and admiration. Vedic texts also mention vimanas, flying machines that, according to some interpretations, could traverse the skies unimpeded. These vimanas are described as capable of flight using unconventional energy sources, challenging modern understandings of technology and time. In China, there are references to mirrors that could transmit images over long distances, drawing parallels with modern communication and broadcasting methods. Reading these ancient texts filled with archaic language creates a contrast with the seemingly modern technologies they describe. This sense of awe and amazement is amplified when one realizes that such technological concepts could have existed long before our era. These texts, filled with descriptions of technologies, raise questions about how much we truly know about the past and what we might have inherited from our ancestors. Mention of shining weapons and vimanas has intrigued researchers for centuries, prompting them to reassess the achievements of ancient civilizations and their possible impacts on our understanding of history. These testimonies serve as a reminder that our notion of technological progress may not be as novel as we think. Mahabharata remains not only a literary work, but also a potential source of knowledge about technologies that existed in antiquity. The precise dates and specific details mentioned in the texts suggest that these knowledge could have been part of a broader system that has been lost over time. Currently, research into these technologies continues, raising more questions about how they might have influenced the development of human civilization. Scientific discoveries, such as archaeological finds, continue to add to the collection of mysteries associated with these ancient texts, demonstrating that the study of history is not just about comparing facts, but also about a constant search for answers to the questions that time poses to us. Strangely, many people associated with the discovery of ancient Egyptian tombs have encountered inexplicable tragedies, giving rise to the myth of the curse of the pharaohs. One of the most famous incidents occurred in 1922, when Lord Carnarvon, who funded the excavation of Tutankhamun's tomb, died just a few months after the discovery. His death at the age of 58 was unexpected. He contracted an insect bite that, according to his account, became infected. A few days later, while in Cairo, Lord Carnarvon lost consciousness and soon died. Carnarvon's death sparked a wave of panic and rumors about the curse, especially when several other expedition members also died under mysterious circumstances in the following year. Dr. Howard Carter, who directly led the excavations, survived numerous rumors about the curse and lived to be 89 years old. However, among other participants, there was Lord Edgar, who also died shortly after the tomb's opening, and his death was believed to be related to the idea that he had disturbed the peace of the ancients. Scientific explanations, however, have dismissed the myth of the curse. Experts point to the possibility of the presence of toxic mold fungi, such as Aspergillus, which can develop in tomb conditions where the air is stagnant and musty. These fungi release toxins that could potentially cause serious illnesses in people in enclosed spaces. Some researchers also highlight the psychosomatic effects. Fear and superstition can cause real physical reactions, such as panic attacks and even sudden illnesses. Entering the tomb, you could feel the cold and damp air, filled with a musty smell, as if the air itself held the history of thousands of years. The dim light of torches illuminated hieroglyphs on the walls, warning of curses and misfortunes awaiting those who dared to disturb the peace of the dead. The atmosphere was heavy, and each step evoked a sense of unease, as if the walls themselves whispered about ancient secrets that should not be revealed. In this context, the curse of the pharaohs becomes not just a myth, but a symbol of human interaction with the unknown and dangerous past. 80 years later, in 2012, a team of scientists from Cairo University conducted a study that found that most deaths related to the excavations could be explained by ordinary illnesses caused by poor living conditions and inadequate medical care. In the dense jungles of Mexico, where tropical greenery embraces ancient stone walls, lies the mystery of ancient Merida, a city that became a significant center of trade and culture, linking various civilizations. The architecture of Merida reflects a blend of styles characteristic of the Maya, Toltecs, and even Spanish colonizers. These unique elements can be observed in structures such as the Church of St. John. Its facade is adorned with carvings reminiscent of Toltec motifs, while the interior showcases traditional Mayan elements. The 18th century was a period of active excavations when archaeologists like Mario Molina began to explore this region and uncovered numerous artifacts indicating distant contacts with other cultures. For example, in 2005, ceramic artifacts made in the style characteristic of the Olmec culture were found in Merida, challenging traditional views of the geography of ancient trade routes. Scholars suggest that Merida could have been a major hub on routes connecting southern and northern civilizations of Mesoamerica. These routes not only facilitated the exchange of goods, but also ideas, contributing to the cultural diversity of the region. One theory posits that the city served as a meeting place for different peoples, where not only goods, but also cultural traditions were exchanged. Excavations conducted in 2017 revealed unusual artifacts, such as carved stones with images not typical of the Maya, adding intrigue to the history of this place. The symbiotic blend of styles and influences creates a unique atmosphere, where the sounds of the tropical forest, the rustling of animals, and the whisper of the wind merge into a single whole, immersing you in a world where the fates of various cultures intersect. Merida is credited with playing a significant role in the dissemination of knowledge about agriculture, as evidenced by the discovery of seeds and tools used for land cultivation. Research indicates that trade fairs may have taken place in the city, where not only goods but also knowledge of botany and astronomy were exchanged. Archaeologists have found that local residents employed complex agricultural methods, including terrace farming, suggesting that the city was not only a trading center, but also an agricultural hub. In 2018, researchers from the University of Merida presented the results of their study, which asserts that the city had strategic importance, not only for the Maya, but also for other peoples such as the Toltecs and Aztecs, underscoring its significance in the context of Mesoamerican history. Remarkably, the Aztecs developed a complex system of calendars that not only reflected their astronomical observations, but was also closely tied to their religious beliefs. The foundation of the calendar consisted of two main types: the ritual Tonalpohualli, comprising 260 days, and the solar Xiuhpohualli, containing 365 days. These two systems intersected every 52 years, creating a unique 52-year cycle that the Aztecs considered critically important for their culture. At the end of each such cycle, ceremonies to renew the fire were held, which were not just rituals, but genuine events filled with fear of the possible end of the world. The Aztecs believed that if they did not perform the necessary rites, the world might end. The Tonalpohualli was used to determine the timing of religious holidays and rituals, while the Xiuhpohualli helped track solar cycles and seasons, essential for agriculture. The Aztecs' astronomical observations were surprisingly accurate. They could predict solar and lunar eclipses, as well as other astronomical phenomena. These observations were made using specialized tools, such as observation platforms and stone structures designed to record astronomical events. Each day in the calendar had its significance and was associated with specific deities and rituals, underscoring the importance of time in the lives of the Aztecs. Time flowed rhythmically, and every event, from planting to harvesting, was marked by complex ceremonies involving priests and ordinary people. These rituals strengthened social bonds and served as reminders of the importance of the calendar in their lives. Using their knowledge of time, the Aztecs created one of the most complex and accurate calendar systems of antiquity, allowing us to marvel at their scientific achievements to this day. Ancient Mexico was not just filled with myths and legends, but also with profound astronomical knowledge that formed the basis of their cultural identity. At an altitude of more than 3,800 meters above sea level, in the thin mountain air of Bolivia, stands the ancient structure of Puma Punku, which continues to puzzle scientists and history enthusiasts alike. Here, amidst the desolate landscapes, one can see stone blocks so precisely cut that even a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. Some of these blocks weigh up to 800 tons and are made of andesite and granite, materials that are difficult to work with modern tools. The walls of Puma Punku have perfectly smooth surfaces, and the angle between them approaches almost a perfect right angle, raising questions about the technologies used by the ancient builders. It seems as if the stones are seamlessly joined together, creating a harmonious unity that is difficult to imagine without written records of the construction process. There are even metal brackets connecting the blocks, indicating a high level of engineering skill and deep knowledge in mechanics. The silence is broken only by the distant sound of the wind, and the contrast between the harsh nature and the intricately carved stones creates an atmosphere of mystery and awe. Puma Punku is not just an archaeological site, it is a testament to the incredible achievements of ancient civilizations that seemingly possess technologies beyond our reach today. The complex carvings and figures on the blocks inspire wonder and raise many questions about how they were created. Research shows that some blocks were cut with such precision that they could be used in modern construction projects. Puma Punku remains one of the most mysterious historical sites on the planet, attracting researchers and tourists from around the world. 80 years ago, in the 1930s, local archaeologists began systematic excavations, and since then, many facts about Puma Punku have become known. However, many aspects of its construction and purpose remain unexplained. In the valley of the Indus River, there once existed one of the most advanced ancient civilizations, the Harappan culture, which thrived approximately from the 13th to the 17th century BCE. The cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were models of urban planning, with a clear grid of streets dividing the city into residential and commercial areas. Streets up to 9 meters wide allowed for the free movement of both pedestrians and carts. Mohenjo-daro was renowned for its sophisticated water supply and complex drainage systems, which included ceramic pipes laid beneath the streets. These systems provided clean water for the residents and effectively managed wastewater, a true engineering marvel of the time. Standardized weights and measures used in trade indicated a high level of economic organization. Archaeological excavations have uncovered seals with animal images, likely used for identifying goods. However, starting from the end of the 3rd millennium BCE, this flourishing culture began to decline. Various theories explain the reasons for its decline. Changes in the course of rivers like the Indus could have led to water shortages for irrigation, critically affecting agriculture. Research shows that climate changes also played a role, possibly increasing drought periods and reducing crop yields. Additionally, invasions by Aryan tribes migrating into the region could have led to violence and destruction. Epidemics likely exacerbated the situation, reducing the population and undermining social structures. Mohenjo-Daro was home to the famous citadel, a structure towering above the other buildings where administrative and religious institutions were likely housed. Interestingly, a large bathhouse designed for purification rituals was discovered in the city. This structure was meticulously designed with a drainage and water supply system, highlighting the residents' high engineering capabilities. Imagine the bustling streets filled with traders offering spices, textiles, and copper goods, while artisans worked on pottery and jewelry. The scent of spices and fresh bread mixed with the aroma of blooming plants created an atmosphere of a dynamic and lively city. However, over time, the streets began to empty, workshops closed, and markets emptied. Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro became testimonies to lost grandeur, where life once thrived, but now only the wind stirs the dust on the abandoned streets. Mohenjo-Daro, with its magnificent architecture and complex infrastructure, serves as a reminder of how quickly a civilization can vanish when it faces challenges it cannot overcome. Currently, archaeologists have discovered more than 2,000 artifacts related to the Harappan culture, allowing us to better understand this enigmatic civilization. In Mesopotamia, ziggurats towered like colossal staircases leading to the heavens, each one not merely a structure, but a symbol of the connection between humans and the divine. These multi-tiered temples, awe-inspiring in their scale, reached heights of up to 90 meters and were built from fired clay bricks, which were faced with glazed tiles that sparkled in the sun, creating a striking contrast with the bright sky. The ziggurat in for instance, was constructed around 21 centuries before our era and served as a model for many others. Its stepped form resembled the mythical cosmic mountain, the center of the universe where, according to Sumerian beliefs, the gods resided. Each step of the ziggurat symbolized an approach to higher powers, and ascending the monumental staircases gave the sensation of leaving the earth and ascending to the heavens. Theories about the purpose of ziggurats vary from being sanctuaries used for worshipping gods to astronomical observatories where priests could observe the stars and predict the weather. Some researchers suggest that ziggurats served as shelters during floods, high platforms protecting from the elements. From the top platform of a ziggurat, one could enjoy a magnificent view of the surrounding city, where houses appeared like toys, and the long shadows cast by the ziggurat at sunset created an atmosphere of mystery and grandeur. This architectural phenomenon not only captivated the imagination, but also played a significant role in the social structure, where priests and rulers gathered the people for festivals and rituals. The ziggurat in Babylon, built in the 6th century before our era, became the prototype of the legendary Tower of Babel described in the Bible, symbolizing humanity's ambition to reach the heavens. Today, archaeologists continue to study these magnificent structures, uncovering remnants of ancient rituals and sacrifices that once filled their sacred halls. As a result of excavations, artifacts have been found that provide insight into life in Mesopotamia, with its complex religious system and cultural practices. Imagine ancient cities with sophisticated water supply and sanitation systems that could astonish even a modern person. The Roman aqueducts built in the 1st century BC were true masterpieces of engineering, stretching for tens of kilometers and delivering fresh water from mountain sources to the heart of Rome. These monumental structures, such as the Aqua Appia aqueduct, which extended over more than 16 kilometers, used a gradient system to transport water. Water flowed in stone channels, creating a soothing sound that filled the city's life. Mohenjo-daro in Pakistan also boasted a complex sewer system dating back more than 4,000 years. Research has shown that the city's streets were equipped with drainage systems built from fired clay bricks, and each street had its own wells, allowing for effective removal of sewage. The Minoan civilization on Crete also demonstrated exceptional skills in water supply. They used terracotta pipes for water supply, bringing water from sources into homes. These pipes were not only functional, but also decorated, indicating the high level of artistic skill of the Minoans. At the same time, toilets with flushing systems found on Crete could rival modern standards. In Rome, public baths like the baths of Caracalla were centers of social life, where people gathered not only for cleansing, but also for socializing. The grand vaults of the baths towered over visitors, creating echoes that reflected off marble walls. Inside it was cool, the air filled with steam and the scent of oils, and water flowed through marble channels, creating sounds that lulled and soothed. The contrast between the clean, flowing water in these systems and the dusty streets of ancient cities was stark, highlighting how highly they valued cleanliness and comfort in those distant times. Romans not only built aqueducts but also created special systems for treating wastewater, which helped prevent the spread of diseases. Water, after passing through filters, was returned to the system, making the use of resources maximum. The complex water supply and sanitation systems of ancient civilizations testify to their advanced engineering knowledge and understanding of the importance of hygiene in daily life. In the mountains of China, mysterious granite discs known as the Dropa stones were discovered. These artifacts, with a diameter of about 30 centimeters and a central hole, feature spiral grooves that resemble micro-engravings. The discs were found in one of the isolated caves in the 1930s by archaeologist Chipu Te on August 18, 1938, during excavations in Sichuan province. The caves where the discs were discovered are isolated from the outside world, surrounded by high mountains and dense forests, creating a sense of mystery and inaccessibility. The spiral patterns on the discs stir the imagination, giving rise to theories that they might be connected to extraterrestrial civilizations and even contain information about a crashed spacecraft. However, many scientists, such as Professor Zhang Li, expressed doubts about the authenticity of these artifacts, considering the story of their discovery a hoax. They point to the lack of clear evidence and the fact that such finds often become objects of speculation and myths. The spiral grooves, which could appear to be the result of advanced technology, remain a mystery, intriguing researchers. Some researchers believe the patterns are simply decorative, while others see them as an attempt to preserve knowledge lost to modern humanity. Against the backdrop of mountain landscapes and mysterious caves, the Dropa discs become a symbol of unsolved ancient mysteries, sparking debates among archaeologists and historians. These artifacts continue to attract the attention of not only adventure seekers, but also scientists eager to unravel their secrets. Each disc found in that secluded cave could be a key to understanding not only ancient technologies, but also human history as a whole, as it challenges traditional notions of civilization development. Despite numerous studies, no hypothesis has yet definitively confirmed or refuted theories about the Dropa discs, making them unique in the world of archaeology. These artifacts remain the subject of disputes and research, and their mystery continues to captivate scientists and history enthusiasts. It is hard to imagine, but the ancient Egyptians processed stones with such precision that modern technologies often fall short. Granite, with a hardness of 7 on the Mohs scale, was used to create monumental structures such as pyramids and temples. This stone, with its exceptional properties, produced perfectly smooth surfaces and sharp right angles that continue to amaze architects and engineers. Diabase with a hardness of 7 to 8 was used to create various statues and ritual objects, such as sarcophagi, known for their smoothness and luster. Basalt with a hardness of 6 also played a role in construction, but its processing method is particularly intriguing. There is evidence that ancient craftsmen could create cylindrical bores with minimal deviation, challenging our understanding of the capabilities of tools from that time. Some researchers suggest that the Egyptians may have used abrasive sand in combination with copper saws to handle such hard materials, but this theory does not fully explain the complexity and precision of their work. More exotic theories propose that ancient craftsmen could have used sound technologies, possibly utilizing resonance to facilitate the processing. These ideas are intriguing but remain purely speculative. When tapping on a polished granite surface, a characteristic sound is heard, reminiscent of a clear metallic ring, indicating the high density of the material and the quality of the processing. The preserved smoothness of the surfaces which have passed through the hands of the craftsman allows us to imagine how these stones looked in their original form, reflecting light and creating an effect that still evokes admiration. Such details as the luster of granite and the perfectly precise angles highlight the skill of the ancient Egyptians, leaving behind many questions about their methods of work. Currently, no technology used in the 21st century can fully replicate such results. Ancient civilizations located thousands of kilometers apart behaved as if they lived under the same sky, creating remarkably similar architectural structures and symbolism. For instance, the pyramids in Egypt, the pyramids of the Maya in Mesoamerica, and the stepped pyramids in China, such as the Qinshi Huangdi pyramid, were built using the same principles of geometry and astronomy. The Egyptians built their pyramids with precise alignment to the cardinal directions, allowing for the use of solar illumination in rituals. The Maya, on the other hand, also considered astronomical phenomena, creating calendrical cycles based on the movements of the sun and moon. In China, for example, the Shang dynasty built their stepped pyramids in accordance with cosmic symmetry, which held deep significance for their culture and religion. These parallels raise numerous questions about possible contacts between these civilizations or the existence of a common mother culture. Solar symbols, such as circles and spirals, are found in many ancient cultures. The sun and its rising were associated with life and fertility, both in ancient Egypt and in the culture of the Incas in South America. It is interesting that flood myths found in the Bible, ancient Greek texts, and even the myths of some local Australian peoples have similar elements which also point to a possible common origin or exchange of cultural ideas. There are several theories that attempt to explain these similarities. One of them is diffusionism, which suggests that cultural elements spread through migration or trade. Researchers like Frank Webster and Oscar Pull proposed ideas about contacts between civilizations through oceanic voyages, explaining how different peoples could exchange knowledge and technologies. Others, such as the British archaeologist Arthur Evans, believed in an ancient mother civilization that preceded all known cultures and from which all major achievements in architecture and culture originated. Notably, in the same time frames, for example, in the 3rd millennium BCE, various parts of the world saw the development of technologies such as the use of metals for toolmaking, which allowed for the construction of more complex structures. The Egyptians used bronze in their tools, while in Mesoamerica, despite the lack of access to metals, enormous stone temples were built. Thus, the question of how these distant cultures could achieve such similar accomplishments remains open. Comparative studies of mythology, architecture, and technology show that there may have been uncoordinated but remarkably similar paths of development between ancient civilizations. For example, in 2021 in China, the remains of a giant pyramid were discovered, whose size is comparable to the Egyptian constructions, once again raising questions about possible connections between these cultures. Deep beneath the earth in Cappadocia lie entire underground cities that astound with their scale and complexity. Some of them stretch to 20 levels deep, making them among the largest underground complexes in the world. Cities like Derinkuyu and Kaimakli are true engineering marvels, carved from soft volcanic tuff that is easily worked. The walls of the subterranean chambers are up to 3 meters thick, and ventilation systems ensure a supply of fresh air, which is particularly important in confined spaces. Within these cities are wells that served as water sources and intricate labyrinths of tunnels that allowed movement between different sections. Heavy stone doors, used for protection against enemies, could be rolled onto special rails, ensuring secure safety. Theories about the purpose of these underground cities vary. Some researchers believe they served as shelters from persecution, while others claim they were wine storage and production facilities that thrived due to unique climatic conditions. The cities could also have had religious functions, serving as places of worship and meditation, protected from the outside world. The cool air of the subterranean chambers creates a sense of comfort and security, while the muffled sound of footsteps in the tunnels enhances the atmosphere of mystery and seclusion. The flickering light of torches on the walls, lined with volcanic tuff, gives this place a unique aura that makes one forget about the bustling life on the surface. These underground cities are a testament to the remarkable ability of ancient people to adapt to their time and find ways to survive even in the most extreme conditions. Cappadocia is home to more than 200 underground cities, and their study continues to reveal new mysteries. In the heart of the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, lies a mystery that can astonish even the most seasoned researchers. The Giant of Atacama is an enormous anthropomorphic geoglyph standing approximately 190 meters tall. This colossal figure, carved into the earth, was likely created over 2,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest artifacts still extant. The geoglyph depicts a human with outstretched arms and legs, its dark lines contrasting with the light backdrop of the sandy dunes, creating the impression that it was left for observers from above as an ancient message to gods or future generations. The technique of creating the image involves removing the top layer of soil to reveal the darker minerals beneath. Many researchers believe that the Giant of Atacama could have served as an astronomical marker, indicating significant astronomical events or changes in seasons related to agriculture. Other theories link it to deities who might have been revered as symbols of fertility or indicators of water sources in this barren region. In the scorching air of the desert, where temperatures can reach 45 degrees Celsius, there is an incredible dryness and silence that only emphasizes the grandeur and mystery of this place. Each glance at the giant evokes a sense of an ancient ritual left for centuries to remind us that even in the harshest conditions, human imagination and the quest for understanding the world can create something extraordinary. Currently, the geoglyph continues to attract the attention of scientists and tourists, sparking new debates about its significance and purpose. Imagine a thriving civilization that left behind magnificent palaces, vivid frescoes, and complex water supply systems, but vanished in an instant, as if it had never existed. The Minoan civilization, which flourished on Crete from the 3rd millennium BCE, reached an astonishing level of development. The palaces in Knossos and Phaistos were not only impressive in their architecture, but also in their advanced engineering solutions, sewerage and plumbing systems, as well as unique water storage systems that ensured the residents had clean water even during the driest periods. The art of the Minoans was truly alive. Frescoes depicting marine landscapes and bull dances were striking in their vibrancy and dynamism. The Minoans actively traded with neighboring civilizations, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and nearby islands, using their powerful merchant fleets. However, Around 1600 years before our era, their fate changed catastrophically. The eruption of the volcano on the island of Santorini caused devastating tsunamis and climate changes that led to the destruction of their fleet and ports. The fiery eruption of the volcano shook the earth, and the waves that swept the shores of Crete carried away not only life but also hope for the future. Ash raining down on the islands blocked out the sun, and panic seized the once thriving cities. However, this is not the only theory of the catastrophe. Some researchers point to the invasions of the Mycenaeans, who might have taken advantage of the Minoans' weakness following the natural disaster. Others suggest that internal social conflicts and economic problems also played a role in the decline of this magnificent civilization. Ultimately, the Minoan civilization disappeared from history, leaving behind only mysterious ruins and unanswered questions. Research shows that in Knossos, there are traces of destruction dating back to around the same time as the eruption on Santorini. In the highlands of Bolivia, there are the Gates of the Sun, an impressive monument that raises questions among archaeologists and historians. This portal, approximately 3 meters high and 4 meters wide, is carved from andesite, weighing up to 10 tons. Its central bas-relief depicts a mysterious figure of a god with rays, giving this structure not only aesthetic, but also sacred value. It is believed that the Gates of the Sun could have had astronomical significance, serving as markers for equinoxes and solstices, which is confirmed by the precise orientation of the portal relative to solar cycles. For example, on the winter solstice, sunlight penetrates through the gates, creating a unique play of light and shadow on their carved surfaces, which was likely used for ritual purposes. The mysterious symbols surrounding the central figure arouse the interest of researchers who are trying to decipher their meaning. Some believe they may be connected to ancient beliefs about the cycles of life and nature. The height and massiveness of the gates create a sense of grandeur and power, while the thin air of the highlands intensifies the atmosphere of a sacred space that was once the center of ritual activities for the ancient Tiwanaku people. These people, who left behind such architectural wonders, evidently possessed deep knowledge of astronomy and geometry, as evidenced by the precision of this monument. The Gates of the Sun continue to captivate the imagination, preserving mysteries that may never be fully revealed. Currently, researchers continue to study this unique monument, conducting excavations and analyzing its structure to understand how and for what purpose these gates were used in ancient times. Ancient medical practices are astonishing in their diversity and depth of knowledge about the human body, even in the Neolithic period. One of the most intriguing and risky methods of treatment was trepanation, a procedure involving drilling holes in the skull to treat various ailments such as epilepsy or head injuries. Archaeological finds indicate that this operation was performed using primitive tools like obsidian or flint knives, and even simple drills, which essentially were polished stone tools. Remarkably, many patients survived these complex procedures, as evidenced by the signs of healing on skulls dating back 8,000 to 3,000 years before our era. In ancient Egypt, medical practices reached remarkable heights, as evidenced by medical papyri such as the Ebers Papyrus, written around 1550 BCE. It contains over 80 different recipes and descriptions of diseases, including herbs used as anesthetics, such as myrrh and opium poppy extracts, which gave the procedure a distinctive scent when mixed with the smell of sweat and fear of the patients. In Pompeii, surgical instruments such as scalpels, forceps, and even spoons for extracting foreign bodies from wounds were found, indicating that Roman surgeons possessed skills comparable to modern ones. Findings suggest that in ancient India, Ayurvedic medicine developed, which included surgical methods like removing stones from the bladder and extensive knowledge of herbs and their properties. Ayurvedic texts describe not only the use of plants, but also various manipulations with the body, including massage and physical exercises, emphasizing a holistic approach to treatment. Procedures in ancient times were often accompanied by the sounds of primitive instruments sliding over bones and a mix of pain and hope for recovery. These practices left a deep mark on the history of medicine, demonstrating that even in ancient times, people sought means to alleviate suffering and restore health, as evidenced by numerous archaeological finds and historical texts. In Costa Rica, there are hundreds of mysterious stone spheres that have become a true archaeological enigma. These perfectly round spheres, created with remarkable precision, vary in diameter from several centimeters to 2.5 meters and can weigh up to 16 tons. The main material from which they are made is granodiorite, which makes them resistant to time and the effects of the environment. The spheres possess almost ideal spherical form, which astonishes researchers. As such, stone processing technologies were quite rare in ancient times. Some scientists suggest that these stone spheres could have served as astronomical markers, indicating important astronomical events such as equinoxes or solstices, which is supported by their placement in specific geometric patterns. Other theories claim that they could have been symbols of status, intended to signify the power and wealth of certain social groups. The spheres are found in formations that sometimes resemble lines or even figures, creating a sense of deliberate planning and deep understanding of their place in the world by ancient people. The humid air of the tropical forest where they are located fills the atmosphere with mystery, and the contrast between the man-made perfect spheres and the chaotic vegetation of the jungle enhances the feeling of touching an ancient secret. Local residents sometimes call these spheres stone eggs, highlighting their unusual shape and mysterious origin. The first mentions of the stone spheres appeared at the beginning of the 20th century when they were discovered in the Delta del Tarcoles area. Archaeologist Dr. Samuel Lothrop and his team from Harvard University conducted studies on these spheres, suggesting that they were used by indigenous tribes for ceremonial purposes or even as navigational aids. Some spheres were found near ancient settlements, adding another layer of interest to their possible purpose. Their exact origin and purpose remain subjects of debate among scientists, and none of the theories have definitive proof. These stone spheres continue to attract the attention of researchers and tourists who strive to unravel their mysteries and understand the role they played in the lives of ancient Costa Rican peoples. The humidity and heat of the tropics create a unique atmosphere where one can feel the breath of history, and the sounds of the forest add to the sense of mystique. At the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean near the shores of the Bahamas lies a mysterious underwater structure known as the Bimini Road. This unique formation consists of a series of large rectangular blocks laid out in straight lines, creating the impression of an artificially created path or wall. These stone blocks, some of which are over 30 meters long, have sparked both wonder and debate among scientists and researchers. Some believe they are the remnants of an ancient civilization, possibly Atlantis as described in myths and legends. Others claim that the Bimini Road is the result of natural geological processes such as erosion and limestone deposition. The arguments surrounding these theories are active, but neither has definitive proof. A significant aspect of this story is the prophecy of Edgar Cayce, a famous American psychic, who in the early 20th century predicted that the remains of Atlantis would be found in the Bimini area. His predictions have drawn the attention of researchers and adventurers eager to unravel the mystery of the sunken continent. The underwater world of Bimini has a unique atmosphere. Sunlight penetrates the transparent water, casting shadows and light on the stone blocks, while swaying seaweed adds a sense of life to this mysterious place. Each wave that crashes onto the surface adds to the structure's mystery, and researchers diving into this watery abyss feel that history might be hidden right beneath their feet. At a depth of about 8 meters from the surface, This enigma attracts divers from all over the world who are willing to take the risk to touch the secrets left by our ancestors. Some researchers use modern technologies to study the structure, including underwater drones and 3D scanning, to create accurate models and try to understand what significance this road had for ancient people. Today, the questions remain unanswered. What was the purpose of this structure? And is it indeed connected to the mythical Atlantis? The immersion in this underwater world leaves researchers with the feeling that they are on the brink of a discovery that could change our understanding of ancient civilizations. At present, the Bimini Road remains one of the most intriguing objects for underwater archaeology, and research continues. In Knossos, on ancient Crete, stood a palace so complex and multi-leveled that its structure became the basis for myths about the labyrinth and the Minotaur. This architectural masterpiece, built around 2,000 years before our era, boasted more than 1,000 rooms connected by intricate corridors. The palace's engineering systems were advanced for its time, featuring water supply and sanitation systems, allowing residents to enjoy comforts that many ancient civilizations could only dream of. Vibrant frescoes depicting scenes of everyday life, religious rituals, and mythical creatures adorned the walls, creating an atmosphere of living art that continues to captivate archaeologists. The connection to the myth of the Minotaur is evident in the palace's architecture. Corridors and halls reminiscent of labyrinths became symbols of the complexity and mysteries of Minoan culture. An important aspect of Minoan religion was the cult of the bull, which is reflected in numerous ritual images and frescoes where bulls symbolize strength and fertility. The throne room, located on the second floor, was adorned with reliefs and statues and had a unique construction that allowed light to penetrate through light shafts, creating a play of light and shadow. Storage rooms filled with thousands of amphorae used for storing olive oil and wine testify to the high level of trade and agriculture in this region. Notably, tablets with linear A script were also found here, indicating the existence of a complex system of accounting and resource management. The scent of the sea, wafting through open courtyards, mixed with the aromas of fresh fruits and herbs, creating a contrast with the bustle of palace life that echoed through the corridors, reminding one of the grandeur and opulence that once reigned in this place. Everything in the Knossos Palace was meticulously planned, and its mysteries continue to inspire researchers seeking to unravel the enigmas of the Minoan civilization. Ancient rock paintings found in various corners of the planet cause wonder and raise numerous questions about possible contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. Some of them depict figures resembling modern astronauts with characteristic helmets and spacesuits. Such images can be seen, for example, in caves in California, where on one of the walls are figures with elongated limbs that seem to float in the air. Vedic texts written more than 3,000 years ago also describe vimanas, flying machines capable of moving in the air and even in space. These descriptions pique the interest of proponents of the paleo-contact theory, who argue that ancient Indians could have described technologies that were beyond their time. Similar theories are proposed regarding the Maya, who left in their codices images reminiscent of astronauts and flying saucers. For instance, in the Tro-Kobe Codex, one can see figures that, according to some researchers, could be interpreted as extraterrestrials. These images are complemented by tales of cosmic journeys and divine beings descending from the heavens, creating an atmosphere of mystery and awe. When we examine these ancient texts and artifacts, a question arises. How did their creators perceive these encounters? Encounters with beings possessing technologies that were not on Earth could have caused both fear and admiration. Proponents of the paleo-contact theory present numerous arguments, including the sudden appearance of highly developed civilizations like the Egyptians or the Maya, who, in their opinion, possessed knowledge that was beyond their historical context. However, the scientific community does not agree with these assertions, pointing out that such interpretations often rely on exaggeration and a lack of factual data. For example, the complex technologies used in the construction of pyramids can be explained by human genius and diligence, rather than the intervention of extraterrestrial civilizations. In medieval frescoes discovered in Europe, one can also find images resembling flying machines. In one fresco created in the 13th century, an object is depicted that can be interpreted as a UFO, sparking debates about whether the artists working at that time could have witnessed something extraordinary. These images may reflect folk myths and legends passed down through generations. Thus, the question of ancient contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations remains open and continues to generate interest among researchers and enthusiasts of mysteries. Objects found around the world serve not only as sources of information about the past, but also as a cause for reflection on how we perceive the world around us. Parallels between different cultures describing encounters with highly developed beings create a sense of global unity in human experience and a mystery that may be unsolvable. Some research suggests that such myths may be connected to the collective unconscious, reflecting the fears and hopes of humanity, making the entire topic even more intriguing. Archaeologists and historians continue to search for new evidence to shed light on these complex questions, but for now we can only speculate about what really happened in ancient times. In the ancient Egyptian temple of Hathor in Dendera, images have been discovered that spark numerous debates and mysteries. These bas-reliefs depict elongated objects that remarkably resemble modern electric lamps. Inside these lamps, a form similar to a filament can be seen, and some of them feature elements that can be interpreted as power sources. One of the most discussed explanations for these images is that they could be evidence of the existence of electricity in ancient Egypt. However, many researchers point out that these objects may symbolize the lotus flower and the rising sun, which aligns with ancient Egyptian mythology, where the lotus is associated with rebirth and life force. The temple also contains other artifacts that hint at possible knowledge of chemistry and electricity by the ancient Egyptians. For example, archaeologists have found gilded artifacts that may indicate the use of gold in rituals and technologies, as well as preserved paints that have remarkably well preserved on the walls, possibly due to unique technologies used by ancient craftsmen. The atmosphere of the Hathor temple immerses one in the world of ancient mysteries. A dim light filtering through narrow windows softly illuminates the bas-reliefs, creating a sense of touching something mysterious and otherworldly. The inner walls are adorned with complex ritual scenes, and melodies that may have once echoed in these halls now remain only in the memory of the stones. Many questions about the true knowledge and technologies of the ancient Egyptians remain unanswered. Research conducted by scientists around the world continues to reveal new aspects of ancient Egyptian culture. For instance, in 2013, a laboratory was discovered in Egypt where experiments with various minerals and chemicals were presumably conducted, suggesting knowledge of chemistry. In this laboratory, remnants of vessels containing residues of substances were found, some of which scientists identified as predecessors of modern paints and dyes. These discoveries underscore that the ancient Egyptians may have possessed technologies that we still cannot fully comprehend. There are even theories that some of these technologies could have been used to create lighting devices that we still cannot explain. Such discoveries raise questions about how advanced ancient civilizations were and what else may lie hidden beneath layers of sand and time. The Hathor Temple remains one of the most intriguing places for historians and archaeologists to study, who continue to search for clues to unravel the mysteries hidden in these ancient stones. It is interesting to note that various sources mention cases where Egyptians used different natural light sources such as nephrite lamps and other devices that could produce light. These facts suggest that light may have played an important role in their rituals and daily life. In the territory of Colombia, within the culture of the Quimbaya, archaeologists have discovered unique golden figures that raise many questions and debates. These small objects made of gold have a shape reminiscent of a modern airplane: triangular wings, a vertical stabilizer, and a streamlined fuselage. Their sizes range from several centimeters to tens of centimeters in length, and their weight varies from a few grams to more significant masses. Crafted by highly skilled artisans, these artifacts gleam under museum lights, showcasing the elegance of lines and the intricate detail characteristic of ancient jewelry making. When scientists created large-scale models based on these figures, they found that such constructions exhibit aerodynamic stability, raising questions about the possible knowledge of ancient people in the field of aerodynamics. Some researchers believe this could be evidence of the existence of ancient flying machines, while others interpret these artifacts as stylized depictions of birds or insects, indicating a deep connection between ancient civilizations and nature. Such interpretations also highlight the contrast between primitive manufacturing technologies and the futuristic appearance of the artifacts, creating an interesting contrast. Despite the lack of historical records confirming the use of flying machines, these golden airplanes remain a mystery for researchers and spark new discussions about the possibilities of the ancient Quimbaya culture. Currently, around 30 such items have been found, and most of them were discovered in tombs. These findings raise questions about the role these objects played in the lives of their creators, possibly serving as ritual items or symbols of status, which underscores the rich mythology and cultural traditions of the Quimbaya people. Approximately 40,000 years ago, the Cro-Magnons suddenly appeared in Europe, people of modern type with a unique culture and skills that would astound even today's artists. These people left behind realistic cave paintings which can be found in the caves of Lascaux and Altamira, where every detail depicts not only animals but also hunting scenes, conveying the feelings and emotions experienced by ancient hunters. Their art was not limited to painting alone. Archaeologists have discovered sculptures such as the famous Venus of Willendorf, standing at only about 12 centimeters tall, but with remarkable form detail, indicating a sophisticated understanding of anatomy and aesthetics. The Cro-Magnons also created musical instruments like bone flutes, suggesting that their musical culture was as advanced as their visual art. Their technological achievements are astonishing: needles with eyes, harpoons for fishing, and atlatls, spear throwers that greatly enhanced hunting efficiency. It is intriguing that all these skills and technologies appeared without apparent predecessors. This raises the question, where did the Cro-Magnons acquire such abilities? While some researchers suggest that they may have learned some skills from Neanderthals, many point to the lack of direct evidence for such influence. In the caves where these masterpieces were created, the flickering light of primitive lamps reflects off the damp walls, creating an atmosphere filled with mystery and magic. Red and black paints made from natural pigments have endured for thousands of years, allowing modern people to feel a connection with these ancient artists. Each brushstroke, each carved detail resonates like an echo of the past, as if the Cro-Magnons were determined to leave their mark on this world, and their voice still echoes in the caves of Europe. For example, in the Chauvet cave, images have been found that may date back around 32,000 years, and they are remarkable for their precision and complexity. These paintings demonstrate not only the skill of execution, but also a deep understanding of the surrounding world, underscoring the uniqueness and grandeur of Cro-Magnon culture. Long before astronomy became a scientific discipline, humans were already building observatories to track the movements of celestial bodies, and one of the earliest examples is the Göbekli Circle in Germany, dating back to around 4,900 years before our era. This Neolithic structure is a complex arrangement of concentric circles formed by earthen banks and wooden posts, with precisely cut passages oriented towards the rising and setting of the sun on key days of the year, such as the solstices and equinoxes. For centuries, people gathered here at dawn to watch with bated breath as the sun's disk first appeared on the horizon, perfectly framed between the ancient posts, creating a sense of unity with cosmic cycles. This ritual was deeply ingrained in the culture of Neolithic communities, who believed that their prosperity and harvest depended on correctly understanding and observing these natural rhythms. Similar structures can be found not only in Europe but also in other parts of the world. For instance, Stonehenge in Britain, built around 3,000 years before our era, served as an observatory where, on the days of the solstices, the sun rose directly over the central avenue. Newgrange in Ireland, constructed around 3,000 years before our era, is a mound with a stone gallery where sunlight penetrates on the winter solstice, illuminating the interior and creating an atmosphere of mystery and sanctity. The observatories of the Maya civilization, such as the one in Uxmal, demonstrate an exceptional understanding of astronomy. They used sophisticated observation methods to track the movements of planets and predict solar and lunar eclipses. The ancient Maya could determine the seasons with remarkable accuracy based on their observations of celestial bodies. Each such structure becomes not just an architectural monument, but a true testament to the deep understanding of humanity's connection to the cosmos, where every element of the construction is aimed at aligning with celestial cycles. In the moment when the sun begins to rise and the silence of the pre-dawn is filled with anticipation, ancient observers felt their lives intertwined with the great cosmic processes. They understood that this sunlight not only illuminated the earth, but also symbolized rebirth, hope, and the eternal cycle of life. The Göbekli Circle and similar structures remain important artifacts that demonstrate how early humans sought to understand and harness natural forces, using knowledge passed down from generation to generation. Nefertiti, one of the most enigmatic and charismatic figures of ancient Egypt, has been the subject of numerous speculations and theories regarding her sudden disappearance from historical records. She was not just the wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, but also a key figure in his religious revolution when the worship of the single god Aten became the central element of Egyptian faith. Nefertiti was often depicted alongside Akhenaten, their stylish and elegant images on reliefs and statues testifying to her extraordinary beauty and influence. In one of the most famous sculptures from the 18th dynasty, her face appears almost perfect, and the renowned bust of Nefertiti, discovered by archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt in 1912, has become a symbol of ancient Egyptian art and a testament to her greatness. However, after the 12th year of Akhenaten's reign, mentions of Nefertiti disappear, as if she had vanished into thin air. This sudden disappearance has given rise to numerous theories, from death from an epidemic to exile. Some researchers suggest that Nefertiti may have changed her name and ruled as a co-regent pharaoh known as Smenkhkare. This theory is particularly intriguing as Egyptian texts mention pharaohs who could have been women ruling under male names. In the search for her tomb, archaeologists have explored various sites, including the famous tomb of Tutankhamun in the Valley of the Kings, where a mummy known as the Younger Lady was found. This mummy, studied in the early 2000s, attracted attention due to its unique characteristics and possible connections to Nefertiti. DNA analysis revealed that she was the mother of Tutankhamun, adding yet another layer of mystery to her identity. The intrigue surrounding Nefertiti continues to captivate scholars and history enthusiasts, as each step towards unraveling her fate opens up new avenues for discussion and research. No facts can definitively confirm or refute her fate, and this only underscores the tension between the known and the unknown in ancient Egyptian history. Ancient Egyptians believed that life did not end with death, and for this reason, they created the Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and instructions that helped the soul overcome the dangers of the afterlife, known as the duat. This compilation of texts, which emerged around the 30th century BCE, contained more than 100 spells, each serving as a key to a safe journey through the afterlife. One of the central aspects of the afterlife was the weighing of the heart, performed by the god Osiris. The heart of the deceased was placed on scales, where it was compared to the feather of the goddess Maat, a symbol of truth and justice. If the heart was heavy with sin, the soul risked being devoured by the monster Amit, which meant complete annihilation. The fields of Ialu, representing paradise for the righteous, awaited those who passed the trials, and only after successfully overcoming all obstacles could the soul enjoy eternal life in this beautiful, verdant place of plenty. Funeral rituals conducted with great solemnity included the process of mummification, preserving the body for eternal existence after death. This process could take up to 70 days and involved the removal of internal organs, which were placed in special containers called canopic jars, and the body was treated with natron to remove moisture. Each stage of mummification was surrounded by rituals and prayers to ensure the soul's protection on its journey. Not only mummified bodies, but also numerous items necessary for the afterlife were placed in tombs: food, jewelry, toys, and even figurines of servants who were to serve the deceased in the afterlife. The flickering of torches in funeral chambers created an atmosphere of sacred mystery, and the wealthy Egyptians sometimes held funeral feasts to celebrate the transition into the new world. These ceremonies served not only to honor the memory of the deceased, but also to convince the living of the reality of the afterlife and the importance of adhering to traditions. The belief in an afterlife was so profound that even the poor could afford simple funeral items to ensure their souls were not left unsupported in the duat. As a result, the Book of the Dead and the practices associated with it became the cornerstone of ancient Egyptian culture, shaping beliefs about life and death for centuries. For centuries, ancient secret societies have preserved sacred knowledge accessible only to the initiated. One of the most renowned of these societies was the Eleusinian Mysteries, held in ancient Greece from the beginning of the first millennium BCE. These rituals, dedicated to the goddess of fertility Demeter and her daughter Persephone, included complex initiation rites that symbolized the cycle of life and death. Participants who underwent initiation swore to keep the mysteries secret, creating an atmosphere of exclusivity and belonging to something great and unknown. For 2 millennia, these rituals attracted numerous followers, including philosophers such as Plato, who emphasized their significance in understanding life and the afterlife. The Pythagorean Union, founded by the philosopher Pythagoras in the 6th century BCE, also became an important secret society where mathematical and philosophical knowledge was practiced. Pythagoreans believed in reincarnation and the unity of all things, and their teachings included complex mathematical concepts and astronomical knowledge. Members of the Union observed strict oaths of silence and followed a multi-level system of initiation, starting with simple teachings and gradually delving into more complex and esoteric knowledge. Such gatherings took place in secluded places, illuminated only by torchlight, creating a mysterious atmosphere where symbolic gestures and passwords were passed down from generation to generation. The cult of Mithras, popular in the Roman Empire from the 1st century CE, also had its secret practices. Mithraism was based on the worship of the god Mithras, who, according to myths, killed a bull, and this act was seen as a symbol of life and fertility. Initiation into the cult involved ritual trials that could include combat, symbolizing the struggle for the soul. This society attracted both common people and high-ranking Romans, underscoring its significance in the social and spiritual life of the time. These secret societies not only preserved practical knowledge such as mathematics, astronomy, and medicine, but also explored philosophical and mystical aspects of existence. For example, the Pythagoreans developed the theory of numbers and their connection to the cosmos, which later influenced the development of science. The Eleusinian mysteries and the cult of Mithras deepened the understanding of the spiritual aspects of life, and their rituals created unique conditions for personal growth and self-discovery. Each of these unions left its mark on history, creating a continuous thread of tradition that connects ancient civilizations with the present. Modern esoteric teachings and secret societies often draw inspiration from these ancient practices. Secret gatherings illuminated by torchlight, rituals, and symbolic gestures passed down through generations create a sense of belonging to ancient knowledge, inaccessible to the majority. In this context, it is clear how knowledge and traditions that emerged many centuries ago continue to influence contemporary society and its spiritual pursuits. The Eleusinian mysteries were held until the end of the 5th century CE, demonstrating their enduring nature and resilience in a changing world.